There are a lot of moms who go shopping for their family and refuse to buy soda because they don't believe it's healthy for the family. Why should a mom avoid genetically modified foods if she's concerned about health for her family?
I know I'm the only mom on the panel, but Jeffrey, do you want to go first?
Okay. Genetically engineered foods are linked to a large number of diseases, and I'll just give in one, maybe minute and a half, the summary of what I said earlier today, and that is the animal feeding studies show that the animals that are fed GMOs suffer from gastrointestinal disorders, immune system problems, reproductive disorders, organ damage, accelerated aging, mood and behavior issues, etc. When individuals stop eating GMOs, they get better from those type of things. Same thing with livestock, same thing with pets. When you look at these type of disorders, they're on the rise in the US population in parallel with the introduction of GMOs. And if you look at the two main toxins in GMOs, glyphosate and Bt toxin, and you just look at the physiological changes that can occur from those two toxins, it would predict these same type of diseases. And if you ignore that, and as Steve said, if you just look at the process of genetic engineering, that can do the same thing. So based on the experience of people in livestock, in pets, in lab animals, and in the epidemiological research, there's no justification for allowing kids especially to eat GMOs because they're most at risk. Mom?
All right, I have 3 children, but I also have 5 grandchildren, and we're a very close family, and we do watch what we eat, and we garden and farm organically, and a lot of I came to this issue because I was interested in organics, it's mostly, and because of the pesticide load that now is being increased dramatically by GMOs. So I think, again, I'm going to go back to pesticides as my main concern. I really like the way Jeffrey talks about the correlations and is careful to say we don't have strong cause and effect science right now, but there's a reason for that, right? Are you going to talk about that, the reason for that? Because they've genetically engineered the scientists as well. You know, in other words, the corruption in science is so bad, they don't have good science on our side. I mean, we do have good science showing the importance of how organic works, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But what I meant about it is the corruption of science. When scientists do study the health impacts, you mentioned Pushtai. Ignacio Chapela is a friend of mine. That happened to him. Tyrone Hayes. We'll talk a little bit about that when I talk tomorrow. Basically, they're attacked, and they have to redo their studies on almost every single case where a scientist has come up and proven a health hazard with GMOs. It's always been confirmed by subsequent studies. But that aside, I think that for me, this issue of the pesticides was the reason for changing my diet long before GMOs came in. I mean, look at it this way. How much more proof do we need that the standard American diet is not healthy, right? We already know that. So we need to take these steps. To me, GMOs really is just another really important reason because we don't know. We don't know because of the kind of work that Stephen has done, where the FDA has been silenced and science has been silenced. So we don't know, and that's good enough reason for me. If I don't think something could be safe for my children or my grandchildren, I'm not going to feed it to them just because and also not eat it myself. It's just a basic self-protective mechanism. And for people you love, come on. No, I won't do that to anybody I love. And I encourage everybody to be really careful.
I want to give a perspective on the health risks, going back to a very eloquent statement that Jeffrey was making about the complexity of the genome, and the paucity of human understanding, how every year there are more and more discoveries of how mistaken we were, and how it's far more complex, far more interrelated than was understood. And again, increasingly more and more we're understanding parts of the genome that were thought to be just junk, thereby some kind of random mistake, actually are quite necessary and perform in a very elegant dance of which we have little understanding. Now, when you compare DNA to human-generated, human-made software systems, it's amazing when you understand the comparisons, because when we have learned, we meaning the human race, through information science, through computer science, through long trial and error, that they're essentially, when an information system gets to a certain point of size and complexity, it can no longer be safely refined, safely revised, with expecting that the only result will be the intended result. So software engineers have learned that even if the man or woman who designed the system and knows everything about it, or thinks he or she does, everything that he or she can humanly know about it, even if that software engineer tries to refine the system, improve it by making an extremely precise, minor change, there could be a disruption or disruptions elsewhere in the system that could not be predicted. The system has become nonlinear. Its interactions have grown beyond the ability of even the people who designed it to predict. So what has happened? In the case of life-critical software, where if that system fails, human life will fail as well. There could be extensive death and injury. There has to be extensive safety testing. The presumption is something has been disrupted. You cannot figure out by doing any theoretical reasoning or superficial testing. There has to be extensive testing of that system. Otherwise, the government means, in the case of the FAA, in the case of airplane guidance systems, or the FDA, its medical device division, in the case of X-ray machines or pacemakers, that's an unsafe product if it hasn't gone through extensive testing. What happens for the FDA, the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, the hugest, biggest, least understood information systems on the planet that are far more complex than any man-made information system, radical changes being made. They say, we presume it's safe, you don't have to test it at all. Is that insanity? I think that is insanity. And it's certainly one of the most reckless gambles with the health of millions and millions of people that I think has ever been embarked upon. And even in Europe, where they require some testing, it is so superficial compared to the rigor with which software systems are tested that, again, it's a joke. It really isn't a joke because the joke's on us. But it's something that, so therefore, if people say your position that these foods should be banned until they can go through years and years of testing and multi-generation testing and then human clinical trials, that's extreme. I say no. It's only extreme if what software engineers have to do is extreme, and we know that isn't. We know that's solid. We know that's needed. So again, the position of saying that these foods are unsafe, they shouldn't be eaten at all, it's right in line with not only biological science, but it is very much in line with what we know from computer science, and that's very important to understand.
Well said.